Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be reacting and responding to a conversation between Steve Nash and LeBron on the Mind the Game podcast. And LeBron is talking about eras and the differences between eras. And he's going to talk about the previous eras, the old game. Steve Nash, he's clearly pandering, feeding into the narratives. He's cozying up with LeBron. He might want a coaching job once JJ Redick gets fired next year or whatever, so he's doing his little audition thing and trying to convince people, whatever. Anyways, LeBron's going to talk about the old basketball game after being, set up here by Steve Nash. We'll listen, and then we'll respond to it.
And we'll get to this later in the series, but the talk around sometimes, some people aren't as happy with the way the game is. We need to help teach fans how great the game is now.
Yeah.
It's not going back to that.
Right.
It's a lot of nostalgia. There's other factors, but the game is great, and we need to teach people how to appreciate.
Yeah,
this.
we just need to. I think have an appreciation, and I think if our fans will really go back and watch some of those games, they'll realize then maybe that's not something we would want to see on a night-to-night basis.
I agree.
Because the difference between our game now is that all of our games are on television every single day, either nationally, locally, or through League Pass.
Mm-hmm.
So you can watch all of our games. In the 80s and the 90s, you may be able to catch one game if you had it locally. If your team had a local broadcast deal, you could catch it. And if not, then you may not see a game for a long time. Let's
like the NBC broadcast.
NBC broadcast. Maybe once every couple. You maybe catch one or two games, every other week. So, I think the nostalgia of the game. I think it's just a deeper conversation of why we should appreciate and celebrate our game of basketball today, our athletes of today.
Sure.
Just like the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s guys were celebrated, and 2000 guys were celebrated. So it's definitely a conversation we get to later.
We'll get to that. I'm excited about that for sure. But how about this? At what point in the summer are you like, I want to get in game shape? And how do you, is it like...
Man, this is crazy. All right. All right. So you hear the term nostalgia thrown around. You hear the term teach people about the game. Look, I'm going to be very direct. There's no need to beat around the bush here. People have nostalgia because they remember a game that had pure competition, predating an era where players were setting up teams. I've heard people refer to it as stacking the deck, right? And those kind of things. Prior to what became like the Big Three era and stacking up teams and all the whatever the references are, teams were competing fiercely. Players were competing fiercely. It was a time where it was not okay to try to put a bunch of your buddies and Hall of Fame teammates on the same team as free agents and collectively recruit and things like that. That was not okay. That was not normalized. And the game was organic in how they decided on the court, who was going to win these games and who would win the playoff series and who would win championships. I think the bigger problem is what's happened in this era recently is you have guys who are all very friendly all the time. And it's an era where people question, how bad do these guys really want to win and how much do they prioritize winning? Because when you compete fiercely, you need every edge you can have, every edge you can get. And I think a lot of this is pandering. It's LeBron pandering to his era because it's his era because it's characterized by the way that he moved. And these older eras and these older players, the old heads that talk about it, they don't like this type of shit. They don't like manipulation, media control, stacking the deck and all these other things. Look, if a team is going to draft players and build an amazing team, and they pull off a trade or they land a free agent or whatever, fine, right? It's within the context of the sport. The GMs compete with each other. The scouts compete against each other to find the best players to draft and all those things. But like, the competition has been it's been controlled. Like it's only been in certain places within the NBA, and it's people have talked about how like the East was weak for so long, and they talked about how you had all these guys going to these teams collectively, and you listen to LeBron just ramble about how like the league is needs to be taught to. People aren't stupid. There are people who know the game better than you. And you're going to insult them and say we need to teach them? Who the hell are you to teach anybody anything? Who are you to teach? You got people who know the game and have studied the game and have watched the game, and you're going to just insult it like they need to be taught what they like? Insanity. Just pure lunacy and disrespect to people and smart people who see through it all. He rambled about like how you were lucky to catch a game if it was local. It's not even relevant to this discussion. The bottom line is the game was more competitive before, and the players wanted so badly to win, and the proof was that they weren't being paid like you. And the NBA was built off the back of those guys. And then here you are insulting the intelligence of people. Nostalgia? No, it's not nostalgia. It was a time where there was fierce competition. Like, you think about like Isaiah Thomas and Jordan and those, they ain't cool, man. That stuff was rampant all over the league because there was an element of just fierce competitors going at it. That's why people have quote unquote nostalgia. But I got these guys, these clowns up here pandering, trying to tell people how they should think about the game. Absolutely disrespectful. Terrible. This platform is going to really stain LeBron's legacy even further than what it should be. I say it every time I make a video like this. LeBron is going to have standalone one of the best careers in professional sports, and he's marring it and dragging it through the mud with shit like this.